What's up, guys? What's going on? So you decided to come back to another episode of Sober Black Girls Club podcast with your host, J. Nicole and Katie. We are back in the building for another episode. Katie, how you feeling today? What you got going on?
What's up? I'm actually feeling pretty nice because it's so sunny out in New York. It's so sunny for February 11th, February 10th. So I'm actually feeling pretty good. It's pretty nice out. How are you?
Feeling great and also enjoying that East Coast sunshine. Can't wait to get out, but we wanted to get this episode in. I think we have a pretty good conversation for the people today. We're going to be diving into friendships. Is it no new friends? My friends I don't know what people thinking these days.
Actually, you know what's so crazy? That this was actually our topic this week in our meetings. Like we were talking about like old friendships, new friendships, what we consider to be like friendship. Yeah, it was like a lot. But I'm not the type to follow that quote, no new friends. Like, no, I need all the new friends. I need all new people.
I don't know. When people were saying that, I'm like, I can understand to an extent as far as meaning that you have this genuine group of people that you've been rocking with forever. So you really don't want to replace them, but to be closed off to new friends, new possibilities. I mean, if that was the case, this podcast wouldn't be going on between us.
And I think who made that quote? Was it Drake, I believe?
Drake, yeah.
First of all, Drake is always crying on some type of a song about betrayal and people like switching up on him. So that's whatever, that doesn't even make any sense. But also, I feel like a lot of us just stay in friendships because of like the longevity, like how long we've known someone. However, like there's no, there's no similar interest. There's no like real like friendship, like love. There's just like longevity, and then that's it. And I had to like when I got sober, I literally had to like learn that the hard way, like hanging out with the same people I was hanging out with when I was drinking or when I was using, which that was like to no fault of their own. It was my fault, but me thinking that like we were gonna still have stuff in common, and it's like no.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think early on, because I did start my sobriety journey in the room, so I did go to AA a couple times. I don't know how people are going to take this, but I never finished the 12 steps. I just didn't go through it. I had
who cares how people take what? Anyways.
Yeah, I had a sponsor for a short period of time, but that was the one thing that did stick out to me early on, where they would say that in order to obtain a sobriety, that you would have to change your nouns, so your people, place, and things. And that was scary, to be honest. Like, I mean, what's your life when you start changing your friend groups, especially depending on the age that you are when you're getting sober and going through all that? That's kind of scary. Like, what's your weekend going to be like?
Yeah, and to be honest, like when I think back to like my experience, my friends were even really heavy drinkers, or like they definitely didn't do drugs. They were like nothing, and that has like a lot to do with it too. That's what I'm saying. We were just totally different people, and I was just thinking like in my head, just because like we've known each other for like 10 plus years, we were just gonna stay friends. But they were like good people in their own type of way, but like again, just no similar interests, and I would just feel like so like dragged down and just so bored and just so like just so like just unfulfilled, I guess, in my friendships. And I had to realize that when I was drinking and using, I guess that was a distraction. So I couldn't really tell that like I was bored around them, or I wasn't really having fun, or I really didn't feel fulfilled because I was like drunk and high, like, you know what I mean? So when I stopped drinking and stopped getting high, I was like, okay, this is just not fulfilling. Like
it's like when you're at the club and then you've been dancing with someone all night and then the lights come on and you're like, dang, whoa, what was going on here?
Or you like go home with them and then you wake up and you're like, what the fuck? Like what?
A one night Tinder relationship turns into like a live-in situation. No, I'm kidding. Still busting on you from a couple episodes ago.
Okay,
situation, and then the lights came on. You're like, all right, wait, what am I doing?
But actually, during that time when the lights came on, I was like, all right, no, this can work. But I couldn't see in the other, like, the other side of that, waking up and being like, oh, this cannot work. Yeah, that's scary.
You know, same one thing that you said though, that's true for me too, as far as like my friends. So I had probably like one friend or two that went to the extreme levels that I did, but we all were kind of partying, but it was like I was always the person that was just taking things to the next level. Like everyone's here and I'm just like, let's go. I'm like, couple of beers here. Now I'm into alcohol, liquor. Now I'm into this. Like, it was like, I don't know what it was, but I just couldn't like stay at the level. So really my friends should have been trying to get away from me. Some of them were, but they should have.
No, that makes, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then you ask yourself, well, I don't really ask myself, but I feel like just listening to what you said, like what made like your friends like stay? Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's just a lot of people get so comfortable with like longevity. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't know like how long your friendships were in regards to what you were just sharing. But yeah, I was the same. Like I was always the one looking for adventure, looking to like really take things up to the next notch, looking to have crazy fun, really looking to do extreme things. And my friends, my former friends, they were never on that type of wavelength. And I don't know what made them, but no, I do. People don't like to end friendships. They think that like ending friendships means that like we have to do it in a way that's like explosive and like violent and like just like a big argument or like blah. But it really doesn't have to be that. It can really be like, you know, just decreasing the amount of time we're talking, decreasing the amount of time we're hanging out, and then having conversations. I feel like a lot of people, which is, first I wanted to talk about what does friendship mean to you, but I'll close this out. All right, you know what? Let's just jump into it because I lost my train of thought anyways. So what does friendship mean to you?
No, no doubt. Friendship to me means everything. It truly does. And to answer your question, as I'm answering this question, I have a maybe a handful of friends that we've been friends for decades now. So we've been friends since like third and fourth grade. Then I
Wow.
have a really close friend, one of my best friends. We've been friends since I was a junior, maybe a junior in high school, but I've known her for since we were kids. But as far as our friendship, I was like maybe a sophomore, junior in high school. But my other friends, we've been friends since third grade, and we're like super close. We hang out monthly. We're in a group chat. We have that. When I went to like college, I have some of those friends as well. But a lot of that, because I play basketball, we drank together and you know, you party together, you kind of form that. So I definitely value those friendships. But every season of your life, well, for me, it was just different. But my friendships mean everything to me. They keep me grounded. You have the friends that are going to call you out. I have the friends that are going to like challenge me in so many different ways. And all of them are advocates for my sobriety. So if I was to say to any of those friends, you know what, like I've done this long enough. I really just I think I could drink again. I think I can do this responsibly. It would be a problem. Like I would feel like people would be surrounding my house like the SWAT trying not to let that happen. So my friends and my friendships are like family. They're so important. And also to the point, I'm very open to new friendships. I think a lot of the newer friends that I have brought great value to my life as well. And I'm totally open, different walks of life, doesn't matter. If you're operating on a similar mindset, or at least in our differences, there could be some kind of strength, then I'm with it.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like that was like a speech. Like,
No, but it was so good. That's what I'm like. I need to
I'm gonna tell you what friendships mean to me. Like,
no, I'm just thinking about everything you just said. I feel like for me, I feel like friendships need to me, friendships are like relationships that are genuine, um, and promote open communication. And I think those two, and I think past, when I think about my past friendships and my friendships now, like now I was able to say like, no, if we're gonna be friends, I need you to communicate. I need you to communicate when something is going on with you, and I need to be able to communicate when I'm feeling some way. I feel like in the past there was just like no communication, like just no communication, just vibes. You know what I mean? And to me, when a friendship or any type of relationship lacks communication, then it's just not genuine. It's just yeah, it's just, to me, it's just not genuine. So I think friendships for me again are just relationships with that are genuine, one, and then two, really hold space for communication. I'm trying to think of other stuff. I don't know. Like I don't know. It's so weird.
yeah, I mean they have a great value, and I think when you're talking about sobriety and being sober and all of those things like that, I think it's a huge part that anchors you, or it can sink you depending on what you're doing. Because sometimes I think we might overestimate our strength and our willpower to continue to be in the same friend groups and doing the same things, even though we made a decision not to drink anymore, that we can still be out and doing certain stuff like that. Because like you said, you don't want to let go of it. It's a comfortability, but I think it can definitely be a detriment. So yeah, people who are out there, if you tuning in and that's the area that you're kind of like struggling in or dealing with or trying to figure it out, like sometimes you just gotta say, bye girl, bye boy. I gotta choose myself. It is what it is. Feel how you feel. It's no love lost. Like you said, I think we think it's got to be this big, like dramatic thing rather than communicate. This is where I'm at in my life. You're not there. You're not doing this, or I'm doing this and I need to be solo to figure some things out. That's okay too.
Yeah. And I think like just going into like this new year, 2022, like again, my friendships, like you said, like your friends like know your sobriety date. Like none of my friends know my sobriety date. It's just not something that they even like ask. And well, my former friends. And I had to realize like that's a problem. Like so you know what else? Like friendships have love languages too, and I feel like that doesn't get discussed enough, because for me, I always feel like I'm the friend that folks can like come to when they're having a situation or they need like problem solving or they need like encouragement, right? But I found myself, and this is not current, this I'm talking about in the past, I would find myself in friendships where like something major would happen and I didn't know who to call. Like I couldn't call people for like advice or because and part of me just didn't feel like they even had like the emotional. That's another thing, like friendships and like therapy and having friends who are also doing a lot of self-development work. I feel like in the past I did not have that. So again, because I do a lot of self-development work, regardless if it's therapy or writing or just always like figuring out how I can be better. It's just a mental thing for me that I do enjoy doing. My friends did not do that. Like they don't do self-development work. However, that might look like, huh?
No, yeah, I think that's important. Definitely to be on the same length when it comes to the self-development stuff, because it could be a little annoying. I mean, I'm similar to you as far as self-development and doing all that. I think if people aren't on that type time, it could be like, oh my gosh, like you're reading another book, you look at something else up, you trying this new thing, you trying to really work on yourself and whatever, reading all the signs. And some people just it's unbelievable sometimes that some people are just cool with like, this is who I am, this is where I am, and it just is what it is, where I'm always on this like self-evolution journey, kind of like that.
Yeah, some people just don't like change. That's what it is. They don't like change in like any type of like format. Like change is scary. I can totally agree. But like exactly, like if I'm going through something and I'm doing all the self-development work and I know what's going on, but I want to be able to bounce off ideas off of you and talk about what's going on and get your perception. And like you don't have even the vocabulary or even like the level of understanding of what it is that I'm going through. So I feel like love languages and friendships are so important, because when I think about my past friendships, like when I was using, like my friends were like, well, we would always give you money. And in my head, I'm like, girl, who cares the fuck? Because to me, money is just, it comes and it goes. Like it just, to me, money will always be here. Like it comes and it goes. However, I had to realize when I got sober that not everyone has that same understanding or relationship with money. Not everyone like has that idea, and that's where like for me communication is so important, because I didn't know that like when I ask you for something and you're just so willing to give it to me, I'm not going to think you have a problem with it, even though I should have used common sense when like, all right, maybe you're doing too much. But I'm just not going to think, especially when I was using and drinking like almost every day, I'm not going to think about that. So like at the end of my like addiction, I thought that my friends weren't there for me, right? I didn't feel like they supported me, but in their head, they're like, girl, we always give you money when you needed it. I'm like, that's not being there for someone, but for me, that's not being there for me.
Not
They
your
have
language,
their
right?
own language. So I think like understanding folks' friendship language, and also making sure that like I'm in community with people who hold the same like level of, we have the same idea of what friendships should look like. Because I just never got any accountability in my friendships. I don't know, it was just so weird. But and this is past friendship, so I don't want my friends now to hear this be like, bitch, what? I'm not
like, girl, what? I heard that.
These are past friendships that I had to be like, nah, this is not serving me in like any aspect, even though you think money, you know, and I get that, but that's for you. But for me, I do not feel like served or supported in any type of way.
Yeah, no, listen, I vibe with that, but communication, that's a big thing. And when we look at friendships, it's not that much different than when you're dating someone. And so
Yeah.
love languages, it's just like if you speak Japanese and I speak English, like we at some point we got to find some commonality, or we're just going to keep looking at each other like this. And that's what happens in these friendships. I was actually eating with my friends, two of my friends that we've been friends for decades a couple weeks ago. And we're all sitting there talking about what everybody's doing. This one's getting a certification. This one has just bought a farm. That's facts. There's just so many things that we have going on. And I said it to them in the middle of this. I'm like, do you think some people would be intimidated to be in this friend circle? And we had to honestly say yes, because it's not that we feel like we're a threat to one another, but we're constantly just challenging, even silently. Like, we're not saying, hey, you need to do this, hey, you need to do that. But when we're just regrouping and catching each other up on all of our accomplishments or our goals, or even our pitfalls and what we're doing, and we kind of trying to do that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I think if I didn't have my stuff together or wasn't on some kind of wave, I would be like, I gotta go. Like, I feel uncomfortable.
Yo,
Or,
that's actually a really great point. It is a good point. It is a good point, because eventually, like, what do you and your friends talk about? If it's not, and don't get me wrong, I'm a celeb gossip girl. Like, I'll be up in the blogs, like, I'll be, Sundays doing my hair, painting my nails, figuring out like what happened on the shave room this week. Like, I'm a blog girl, but aside from that, we need to have more to talk about. Like, you know what I mean? There has to be more, and I feel like it has to be like this mutual thing where like I'm talking about something of substance, and then you're also like feeding me back some like things, or in terms of like just conversation, or just like learning something or figuring something out. I don't feel like I've had that before in the past in terms of like friendships, and I can say it might be a little intimidating. I can definitely see that, like when someone is constantly going through something, regardless if it's some like spiritual transformation, or they're doing some outside work, or they're figuring out like a business, and then the other person or some other part of the friendship is not. It can be,
yeah, and we're all different. We're all different people. Like, my friends, like, we all are like really different personalities. My one best friend and I, we actually are only one day apart. Our birthdays are December 10th and 11th. So we're pretty similar. And so in that regard too, we find balance. It's like, I know you're super driven, I know I'm super driven. So we kind of can just like lend to one another, but we don't always have to like agree. My friend just bought a farm. I never wanted to be a farmer. I don't want to be a farmer. But guess what? Last week, I was out there putting logs down to try to like start like a farm bed, just kind of help her out and do things like that, because you got to believe in each other's goals and visions. I think also with the same thing when you talk about sobriety and where we are with that, if you don't have people that believe in you or can at least help you, because a lot of times we can't see that for ourselves as much as we want to. We're trying to fight through like the trauma, the bad stuff that's going on in our life, the grief and all of that stuff. And so we want to be sober, but we may not believe that we can do it. So having those advocates too, I think your friends are low key some cheerleaders too, or haters, and then they're not your friends. But
wait, say that again.
I said cheerleaders or haters, but then they're not your friends. But you can't always see that. You don't always know who. I think I'm trying to think if I can remember everybody. What was I say? Everyone that's rooting for you. What is it? I gotta try to think of it. It's something like everyone that's rooting for you is not a fan, or something like that, or maybe everybody in your audience is not a fan. That's what it is. So it's like, even though a lot of people are watching you or can see what you're doing or around you, doesn't mean that they're a fan of yours or that they're rooting for you or advocating. Sometimes we think that quantity, like this big number of people, I'm well known, I know a lot of people, got all these followers or whatever. So what? For me, it's the value, it's the quality over the quantity.
For sure. And I feel like sometimes we can like assess when that's missing. And I feel like it's always so important to then step out of the box and create and go looking for like your circle and go looking for like your people. Like when I think about my circle today, which has a lot to do with a lot of people from the Black Girls Club, like you just said, totally different people. We're just all totally different, but we do have a commonality of one healing of and living like a life, a trauma-free, a trauma-free, violent-free, less productivity-free life. And what I mean by productivity, like not constantly trying to labor to prove our worth, like understanding that we are worthy just as we are, and our ideas, even if it might not look like going to law school or becoming a doctor, like our ideas and our passions are great just as is, like, so when I think about right now, currently, like a lot of my friendships we're nothing the same. Like one of our girls like is in like a poly relationship and just got engaged, and like it's so crazy. I would never think I would be close to a person who like was in a poly relationship and is engaged and it's very like, you know, sex positive and is very like out there. I would never in 100 years, but it's like, wow, like no, this is cool. Like this is cool to learn about something that's different. Even if you can say, well, I would never ever ever do this. It's cool to know someone. Um, it's cool to know someone who's different from you, who brings something new into your life. And when I say something new, I don't want to seem like, so I don't think we have to have friends who are always on the go, on the go, on the go, right? So I think like when I think of some of my friends who are somewhat okay with like, you know, 9 to 5, and I think that's fine. Like as long as it's not holding me back, or as long as it's like no hidden jealousy or no like alternative like feelings, then that's totally fine. Like you don't have to constantly be doing stuff and working, in my opinion, to be my friend. But again, I think communication is everything, and I need to know that like, okay, we're cool. Is everything cool? Is there any like feelings, or I don't want to say hidden motives because that doesn't really sound well. That doesn't sound nice, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. I feel like I'm doing a lot.
I do. I don't know if they do. They should, because it's really clear. But some of the things you were saying there though, and I kind of got like almost chills when you talked about like it's okay to just be like as we are. And that's so freeing, especially because some of the flip sides, again, to those friendships and to the ambition that we have in life, it doesn't always give room as easy to just settle. So prior to recording, I was chilling. I was in bed, just relaxing. I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna get a shower. But then the sun was shining and I started to feel kind of like guilty that I was just like chilling when there was things that I could be doing or that I should be doing. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just chill here for a little longer and do that. But it's not always that easy every day to feel like I can just kind of chill. I don't have to be on this go thing. So again, depending on certain circles or what you see on social media, and that can turn to a whole nother episode. So let's just wait for that. But like just comparing, not even consciously meaning to do so, but like, man, if I want to get to this bag, or if I want to do this, or if I want to get this connection, or get into this room, then I should be doing this, 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 and this. But to kind of bring the friendship conversation full circle, I think one of our best friends should be ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
We should be able to be cool with our own solitude and within ourselves, and knowing what's best for us, what's our self-care language, what's our individual language for ourselves. So that's important as well.
Yeah, that's for sure important. So I guess what are some qualities that you, if you have like if you could create a friend, right? Like the perfect friend, what are some qualities they would have?
Definitely, I would have to say honesty. I would have to say that because not because I don't like liars. No one really does, but not that way. But meaning that they have enough like gumption, like enough heart to call me out on who I am and like when I'm falling short. Because I think that's one of the biggest assets I see in friends, is that they can see things about myself that like I may not be willing to see, or that I just don't see at all. So being able to call out my blind spots is really important. Hmm. You throw one in there. I got to think about that. What else? I mean,
For me, I think it's also honesty and communication. I keep on bringing back communication, but I honestly like there's just so much. I should have honestly wrote some points down, but there's just so much in this topic that like I could talk about, which is why I feel like I'm rambling. But definitely honesty, and definitely communication, and also a lot of introspective. I feel like I'm thinking about this one friendship that I had where I feel like they were so unhappy with themselves that a lot of it, but they were untruthful about how unhappy they were with themselves. That a lot of their actions were not in terms of like, not in terms of jealousy or spitefulness, but it was just very, when you're unhappy with yourself, you're going to constantly try to control someone else and control the things that make someone else. So for me, I'm clumsy, right? If me and you're going to be friends, you have to know like something is probably going to get knocked down. I'm going to, not like seriously, something's probably going to get knocked out. I might leave a door unlocked, some shit. Like if I'm talking and doing certain things at certain times, like things are going to happen. And I remember like this old friend I had where I would like constantly always like, Katie, make sure you pick this up. Katie, make sure you picked up that up. Like, girl, if you're doing all this, maybe we shouldn't be hanging out too much, because now it's getting too like, this is just like why are you hanging out with me? Like, if we're friends, you're gonna have to know that I'm gonna be somewhat clumsy because that's just what makes me. And if you want to be my friend, you're gonna have to accept that. If not, then leave me like alone. Like, be honest with yourself of why we're friends, why you want to be around me. Like, why is it that you still, want to maintain this communication, this friendship? I feel like a lot of people don't know why, and or they think, again, I think it goes back to like longevity. So I feel like, again, like I definitely agree with you. Say honestly, being truthful about yourself and why is it, do you want to be my friend just to tell me to pick things up and tell me to not be clumsy like that? I don't need that as a friend. Like, a bitch is gonna knock something over here and there. It's gonna happen. Like, let's be real. Like, it's going to happen.
Noted. Let me note that. Let me take note of that. So if the camera goes flying down or something happens, guys, this is what happened. And don't think it was me.
No, it's me. It's me.
I think that's a real one. I think trust. And the reason why I say that is because I want to be able to feel like, and this is an area that I struggle with sometimes, but I think it's me, not them, being able to be fully vulnerable. And the reason why I say that is because I am so used to just being very solution driven and just like having answers and being able to figure it out. And so my natural thing isn't for me to ask for help. It's not for me to say that. So I do need to have some friends and friendships where I can say like, yo, I am not well. I don't feel good. This, like, mentally I'm off. I'm feeling overwhelmed, or like I'm really struggling, because that is very hard for me to do. I'm conscious of it, but I still struggle in that area. So having friends around me that I can just feel it, and even so, like, they can be like, you need to talk, like, what's going on? Because sometimes I need that conversation starter to feel like, hey, this is what I have going on. So me being able to trust you enough to feel vulnerable with you is important. One thing I kind of want to segue, and I don't want to throw us off too much, but I think what I'm trying to see here, what we're talking about, do you think that we should be more conscious of the definitions that we're using to describe people in our life? So maybe everybody is not necessarily a friend or friendship, but they are associates or somebody that I know or someone that I met, because I think we say like, oh, my friends, but like, what does that mean? Like, I started to change that too. I know a lot of people and a lot of people know me, but as far as like my actual like friends, I am blessed to have a decent amount, but I had to start thinking like, okay, maybe there's associates or someone I went to school with, not necessarily a friend.
Oh, that's good. That's so good, so good, so good, so good. Yeah, I definitely do not call. I in my head I have like 3 friends. And I that's such a good topic. I have sisters, right? So I have a lot of sisters. So especially the SBGC fam, I consider everyone who I meet with, in terms of like our group meetings. To me, that's sister relationship. They're not necessarily like my friends. But I've never been the type to openly call people friends at all. I feel like at every single given time I've had like 3 friends. And what I mean by 3 friends, it's like 3 people who I feel comfortable calling when something may be wrong, or I'm feeling I guess, not at my best. Friends who, if something as great is happening, something well is going well, I can call and be like, listen, yo, this is happening, blah blah blah, and I feel that like they're happy for me, and I feel like they're supportive. That's so true. I feel like a lot of people use friends too loosely, and that's their right. I don't know, that's their right if you want to call people friends, but I do not use the F word. Or I use the other F word, but I do not use the F word.
You use the F, you use the other F word. You haven't, but
I use the other F word, but I do not use the word friend. And this is having me think about something else too, which I feel like we're like navigating. So how long have you been on here for?
I have no idea, but
Neither do I.
let's keep going. We'll try to hang in for a little 5 to 10 more minutes or so. But I mean, you guys, hopefully you guys are feeling it. You rocking what we're saying, because it's going. But I don't want to lose your train of thought. So
you have me thinking. Okay, so the other day we were talking. I don't know. I was talking again with my friends. These 2-3 girls that I consider them to be my friends. And we were talking a lot about like a lot of like the just the environment that's going on right now. Like every time you open, like you open the TV or your news or your laptop, you're reading about, like, for example, the man, excuse me, almost to be father, who like lost his life, and he went up in some cabin with like 9 other coworkers. Did you hear about that?
no, I didn't.
Okay. He lost his life. He basically got shot like 6-9 times. We're still trying to figure out what happened. You see some type of basically racial or social, I guess, problem or event that's like playing out like in the news. And I was telling my friends, like, personally, I do not have like white friends. I know people who are white, but in the past, I've never had someone who I can fully trust with everything that's just going on. There's always just this, what do you call that? Like this thing in back of my head of like possible racial, I don't know, events or just something. I have to be very conscious, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I was telling my friend that like recently, like especially in the sober community, I have been like talking to this woman who is an ally, who is white. And I don't even use the word allies. Like I don't like those words. I'm very like, if I'm to myself with like our community, then you have to imagine how even to myself I am and how conscious and protective I am myself with like people who are non-Black, and I have every right to be. Like, look at the history, our history, look about what's going on right now. I'm very guarded is the word. And I was telling my friend, like, there's this woman who, she's also queer, and she seems like she puts her mouth where, what is it, her mouth where her words are, or where her foot.
Yeah,
What's
her
that? Basically, she looks like she's not only about talk, like she's actually into like action. And I was like, I think I'm having like feelings, and when I mean feelings, like friendship feelings, I'm like, I feel like I want to consider her like someone I want to like get to know more, or like friends and blah blah blah. And I'm like, this is weird because I've never really been in this space where, like, again, all my friends are Black. Clearly I went to school, I work in places where I'm usually don't have to be, but I'm usually the only Black person. But I've never, I guess, been this intimate in a friendship level with a person before. So it's kind of scary. But I am open to it, especially like, Bell Hooks just passed away. So I've been rereading a lot of her books, and I'll end just saying one thing. Like, she says that, like, if we're gonna build a better society, being Black, you have every right to be cautious and to be defensive and to like be guarded. However, like, we do have to give folks a try space to see what they're going to do. And at the same time, I have every right to like still keep my foot on their neck. But I will say this, I don't want to be the person who's gonna, because if I do, let's say if me and such girl have a friendship, I honestly don't want to be the person who like has to constantly put my foot on your neck and be like, okay, that might be a little like racist, or that might have this just tone to it. You know what I mean? And that's another fear I have of like having someone who's white that I would actually consider a friend. Because like, let's be real, let's be clear. I have a lot of white associates, but again, I do not call everyone a friend. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's deep, and that's dope for you to actually like go there and say that and be vulnerable and talk about that. I feel like we're gonna have to continue this conversation because there's so much more to say. But what I do want to say about that is that I actually had the opposite experience when it comes to having a lot of friends or people around that aren't Black. And so I played basketball my entire life. So growing up, a lot of the sports teams that I played on, the basketball teams were predominantly white, or I had white counterparts. And so it became a norm for me where I went to school K through 8th grade, where it was a predominantly African-American school. And so a lot of my friends, they had a lot more trouble assimilating and feeling more comfortable to build those friendships with people who don't look like us. Whereas for me, I was always playing basketball at these other schools and with these other communities. So I was more comfortable with this. So actually, some of my close friends, one of my best friends actually is white. And I don't really have those apprehensions, but I do feel like over the last couple of years, just everything that has been played out in the media, everything that we've been exposed to, just the whole couple of past years, I do see how it could become more difficult to maybe like start those friendships, or for people to perhaps maybe date interracially, things like that, where the conversations, you're watching TV, you're eating dinner, and certain things come on the TV and it could just spark different conversations. Because prior to that, I wasn't really exposed as much to these issues. So it wasn't really a problem or anything to think about. I've dated interracially as well. And I do see that how it could have been a little more challenging over the last couple of years, but I've never really had that problem feeling like that as far as like if they're going to treat me away or how that's going to be. Now, maybe like their family, I have thought about that. So like not so much my direct friend, but like their grandparents maybe, or people like that, like, like they're bringing their little black friend again, like, like what's going on? So like I have thought about that in life, but all of the people that are non-black that I've been associated with, to my knowledge anyway, have just been nothing but like great friendships for me. And I do mean friends, not just associates. Like I have a couple of really great friends that I value. And yeah, they just don't happen to don't look like me. But we find it's cool because we built a commonality where we can ask certain questions and say certain things, and it's not an offense taken, it's an education or like a questioning, or how can we like get through this, not like, why did you just say that? Is that a microaggression? What's going on? Why did you touch my hair? Don't touch my hair. What's going on? Like all those things. So I think there's definitely spaces where that comes up, but I've been fortunate to have some pretty solid friendships.
Yeah, I was just looking up the 'cause I don't want to talk about people and not use their name, but the man, the soon to be father that I was talking about, his name was Peter Bernardo Spencer. He was a Jamaican immigrant to have a baby in June. He's like, very open. He had like a lot of white friends, associates, blah blah blah, and he went on a cabin trip. He was the only black person there, and he got killed. And there's most of the story that I'm not gonna go all into detail, but like in my head, it's so crazy. And I know we're switching gears a little bit, but in my head, it's so crazy. When I first read this, I subconsciously was like blaming the victim. Like, why would you ever go anywhere with a bunch of white people and be the only black person? And you don't have to. It's not job related. But in my head, it's like, okay, then I had to talk to myself and be like, hey, you cannot blame him for being open. Everyone is always preaching equality and what I have a dream and all this other things, but like, look at the reality of it. It's scary. It's spooky. Like, it's spooky. Where I would never ever even to this day will never ever go anywhere that's not like for leisure or fun and be the only black person there. I just wouldn't. I don't think it's safe. Even now thinking about the mother, I think in Atlanta, this happened like 2-3 years ago. No one knows how she passed away. The only black mother in like a parenting group. And I know I'm like I totally like switched the conversation from like friendships, but I think it's important. It's like these are two people.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
These were two people who thought they could trust a group of white mothers, him, a group of like his white coworkers, and look what happened. Like, it's scary. It's super scary.
It is. No, it is scary. That's what I'm saying, that I think that everything that's been going on recently, and so of course our world, our lives, our existence, this isn't new. This has been for years and ever beyond our existence, before our existence. But it's just my experience, we're seeing it a lot more. Like we're seeing it constantly. Like I went to the protested for George Floyd, and that was the first time I ever went to a protest in my life. I've never experienced that, and it was like something to really experience, but it's just so much more that we're seeing. So those apprehensions make sense. Like you said, though, being open to it is, of course, what I would encourage people to try to do. If you can, educate yourself, maybe find someone who does consider themselves an ally and ask them the questions unapologetically and unfiltered that you want to ask, or make the statements that you want to make, and see how you guys can build and go from there. If you don't feel comfortable, you or whomever else is listening, that's fine. I will say that some of my friends that are not black are the dopest people I've ever met. And it's just, again, I think this is what's beautiful about having these open discussions, is that we see how with anything else, our upbringing and our experience and just what we were around forms who we are. Because there are people in my life that will never date interracially and have given me so much. You can probably imagine that. No, I'm not letting you. I'm not.
Wait, no, wait.
I thought you was going to try to come for me or something.
No, I was saying you said some people in your life, and I'm raising my hand as one of them.
Exactly. No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They just wouldn't do it, right? And so in my mind, I've never even really looked at it like that was a problem. And now, I mean, I'm married now, so I'm married to a black woman. So that's not a Lord willing, that's not a part of my future to even have that option on the table anymore. But I don't know. I just was never that person. I think it's just because again, just at a young age, just being around and them being my peers and just not seeing it differently. Like, oh, this is the person that I think is attractive or attracted to me, or these are cool friends. We play basketball, we hang out. I think they're cool. I think I'm cool. And we just, build friendships. But being on a team is like, you kind of have to learn, you just working together for the same goal, and you become like a family. So it's just like, maybe that's a different scenario. But again, I'm not saying like who's wrong or right, but I do think that, what we go through or our experiences or what we see and what we believe is what's going to basically bring the end result.
Yeah. All right, so I guess I have one more question, I guess. So what about boundaries in terms of like friendships and boundaries? I guess we kind of did talk about it. But I guess I would say, like, what are some of your like non-negotiations, like your no-nos, like cannot happen in terms of like friendships?
Wow, that's a deep question. I haven't really had to think too much about that, but I think for me, obviously, like if you have like some sort of like drinking excessively or doing all of those kinds of things, like you're not gonna get in my car with like drugs on you, stuff like that. Like I'm really straight edge, like what someone might consider very corny. And I'm just like that. So like that's like a non-negotiable as far as that goes. I think, I don't know, males, females, I don't really have like a cutoff really with that comfortability, but yeah, I don't know. I gotta think about that. And you caught me with that one. What about you?
For me, for me, okay, so we're talking about friends, right? We're talking about effort friends. So I'm not talking about associates. I'm not talking about people who, I'm not talking about people who I work with, regardless if it's like in a mentorship position. A lot of people do have, I'm learning communication issues. Like people just don't feel comfortable, especially Black women sometimes just don't feel comfortable like talking about the things that they need, the things that they want, the things that, sometimes we just go with the flow. And I'm realizing, and that's okay. Like in SBGC, when we have our meetings, like it's to empower us to really talk about the stuff that's going on and what we need. Stop just living life on other people's terms, trying to be everyone's mom and caretaker. Like, no, absolutely not. It has to stop. But I know like we have a long way to get there. But in terms of like friends, like I need my friends to be able to communicate like their needs when they're uncomfortable about something, when they don't agree with something. And I also something that's like us just talking about it. I do need my friends to be, this is about to be another conversation, to be pro-Black. And it's weird, right? Because I said all my friends are Black, but I realized a lot of my friends, especially in the past, would have this like mindset that was just so anti-Black in terms of like we would like read certain, I know, right? Like what do I mean? Like we would read like it's like reading something in the news or hearing something and being like, well, maybe he could have done this or that, and I know I need to give you an example because then it'll look like I sound stupid. Hold on, let me give you one example. Can you play the Jeopardy song real quick? Let me get Oh, okay. For example, when the election, right? So before this recent election that we had, the first election that Trump was running for, running in, whatever, right? And I remember like being over my friend's house and like we're so like cool, and the person is very like, I actually did genuinely like this person, but to me, I don't care who Trump was running against. Trump, in my opinion, is a racist. He's disgusting. Of all the things he's done and said about the Black community, about Muslims, it's just so gross and disgusting. And I don't care what he has done in terms of giving you $1,200. You can't compare money in the stimulus package. You can't compare money to the treatment of kids being in cages and kids like are you nuts? I had this one friend who I remember us, like, I remember us like sitting down watching the news, and they're like, yeah, well, at least he's doing this. He helped people with the economy, and he's gonna bring back the money and this and that. And I'm like, but do you not see the things that have you not heard of the things he has said about like Black people? Do you not see what he's doing to like Mexican children with the cages and the borders? Does that not mean anything to you? And well, this I'm like, okay, yeah, I can't be friends with people like that. I can't. I'm sorry. We can be acquaintances. We can be what? What is the word?
Acquaintances.
Acquaintances. Right.
Yeah.
Associates. I need water. I'm sorry. My throat is like so dry. We can do all that. Like we can say hi and bye, but I'm not going to consider you a friend, and I cannot trust you because what type of morals is that? And I do not care. I know people always say, well, just politics. Okay, well, being Black is political, right? I am like a lot of stuff that revolves around us and how we live and our overall like well-being is very political, because for a long time people did not see us as people or worthy of making our own choices or being free. So my existence as a Black, especially queer woman, is very political. And when you're sitting your little ashy ass on your couch talking about economy, like, girl, goodbye. I did not speak to her after that. Like, you're nuts. You are nuts trying to come with me around that. But I understand this. Like, a lot of my friends wouldn't have cared. Like, they were like, yeah, Katie. I'm like, no. Like, I cannot be friends with people who one, which again, I understand. And yeah, it shouldn't be Black people's, job duty to talk about these things, it's for other people to have to be put in these positions. I get it, but that's why you're gonna be my associate. My friends are people who do care about Black people, and not only about the money that's coming into our pockets, but the overall well-being and happiness of Black people who are queer, Black people who are disabled, Black people who are houseless. Like my friends, people who I do consider myself friends with, they do care about that. They have opinions about that. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna stop rambling because I could go forever, but having friends about certain things that are just so important, and they're like, well, I can see both sides. You cannot be my friend. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Both sides, they're not gonna be your friend.
You ain't my friend. You can.
No, that's dope though. That's a dope non-negotiable. I mean, I think that's important. That's what we kind of first started talking about, is the importance of having those similarities where it really matters. And if that's a non-negotiable, because it seems to me that if you did have a friend that was like in that neutral zone or being like that, it's just gonna be constant arguments and debates anyway. So who really wants to have a friendship like that? So that definitely makes sense. I mean, I think for me too, just kind of like as we wrap it up, if I think of like a non-negotiable or like a boundary, if you will, I think to some extent, I need you to believe in something greater than yourself. That's just me. And I'm not saying that people who I know can feel that way, but so for example, one of my best friends, the one that I told you about that bought a farm, she's Muslim. And my other close friend, she just kind of is like in between. She's just learning this. One minute she's feeling like she identifies more with Islamic beliefs. Then there's some Christianity here. Then she might take a little bit of Buddhism with herself. And that's fine with me. So I'm not saying you have to pick one or the other. I don't, it doesn't matter. But the way that I speak and the way that I think, I feel like if you don't have anything that you think is like greater than yourself, whether you can believe in that or not, or that you have something to kind of answer to or figure out, or some kind of like belief system in like far as morals and values, that's a little scary to me. It's a little unnerving because I don't really know what you would do. I don't know what you would do. I don't know what you think you're capable of. I have no idea, but those vibes are a little bit like, I don't know. I because I'm evolving too. I'm learning and deciding what I believe in and what I don't believe in, but I do believe in something greater than myself, and I choose to call that power God.
What if they believe in themselves as the thing that's greater than themselves, like their higher self? Like I believe, don't get me wrong, I'm Muslim, and I'm also like I'm of the Islamic faith. I don't practice like I should, but like I grew up Muslim.
Gotcha.
I grew up, growing up, the Quran is right there. I used to go to Quran school Monday to Friday, Sunday school. So yeah, I know how to read the Quran. I know how to recite surahs. I know I fast during Ramadan. But as I got older, I started to think like religion, just religion. Like it is religion. And a lot of the things to me, like it's man-made. However, I still call myself a Muslim, and because I know clearly there's something there's something up there, right? I might not. And I also, grew up going to Catholic school, so I'm pretty familiar with that too. But now I also like realize that there's like my higher self. And even though I still believe in like Islam, I understand Christianity, I'm into astrology, I do believe like, so there's some people who don't believe in any of those things, but just say like, there's just me and like my higher self. How do you feel about that? And you don't have to, like, it doesn't have to be one way or the other. I totally agree with you. Like I don't need my friends, but it is important for my friends to believe, in something greater than themselves. But what if that thing is themselves?
Yeah, that would be an interesting conversation. We would have to really dive on it because I'm not a closed-minded person. So I would be open to having that conversation with you and like learning about it. But as far as like close friend, family, like in my like heart circle of people who I feel like are like-minded and we're aligned and our conversations kind of can flow well together and we can speak life and positivity, and the way that we speak in our languages here within my friendships, it would be a little bit different. And so I do know people, and I know of someone that I don't know if it's considered their religion, but they are God. They are the God. That person is a God. So, but I think they're a dope person. I really think they're a really cool person. So I'm not saying that I'm against you or I think you're a bad person. I'm just saying that as far as like my boundaries for like people that are like my friends, like we all believe in something greater than ourselves. And in one regard or another, we consider that being God. And so no matter which their religion is, that's not really important to me. But that, I don't know. That's just, it's something we can dive into, but yeah, I don't know.
No, you have me thinking about, oh my gosh, you really did. Now I'm thinking about this differently. Okay. And I know we like, honestly, I thought it was like 2 hours later. It's not, we're still in the 2 o'clock realm. But anyways, I have a friend who, she knows I'm into like astrology, spirituality. I have altars, I make candles, depending on what I want, what I'm trying to manifest, what's going on, transits in the sky. And like, she's always been very adamant that she does not have like a lot of belief in like astrology or like in spirituality. Like I asked her, like, does she pray? She said no, which to me is like, okay, that's weird, but that's fine. Like whatever, right? But you just this conversation has me thinking about the last time like she came over here. Like I was helping her do a candle. I was helping her do like an abundance candle. I had put it together and I was really gonna just try to do like a ritual with her. And then her whole attitude was like she didn't really believe in it, like she doesn't really take these things seriously. So in my head, I remember like getting annoyed, but I created a boundary for me. Like, hold on. I created a boundary for me. If my friends do not believe in these things, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where, like, when we are trying to do some ritual, I feel like you're not taking this seriously. When you already said you don't believe in it, so why are we here? Like, why am I making this candle for you? Why am I doing all these things? Which for a huge part of like spirituality is having faith, is believing in something that we can't see and something that might not be physically there. So you really have me thinking about that experience. But I already told myself I'm not doing anything spiritual for her again. Like, you're gonna have to find somebody else. Because it was just so useless and like a waste of time and a waste of my energy, waste of my resources. Like, what the hell? So even though I am willing to have friends who are, I guess you could say, atheists, who don't believe in things, when things are getting rough for your ass, do not come to me asking me to help you.
Oh, you're nuts. We gotta go.
I'm gonna say no. Don't come to me. I'm sorry.
That's a perfect way for us to end this episode. Man, you're awesome. This is a great conversation. Hope you guys out there are enjoying it. Katie, you got any last parting words for the people for this episode?
I'll say one thing. I think I'm sorry. All right, I'll say this last thing. I think it's really important to be aware and always know that like life is all about transitioning and transitions. Nothing is permanent. And I'm kind of always really happy that some things are not permanent in regards to, I might not be talking to a friend today, or I might be lonely, have no friends today. And then tomorrow I can meet someone who's incredible, like tomorrow who, we become lifelong friends. And I think in terms of like our relationships, regardless if it's with family, friends, romantic relationships, it's just really important to know that, life changes. Life is always evolving. We are always evolving. The people who we thought we knew in the past are always evolving. So just be open to the unexpected, to transitioning. Yeah.
Love it. Beautiful. We couldn't end it any better than that. Make sure you're following Sober Black Girls Club. Make sure you're doing that. You can follow me at I_AM_J Nicole. Guys, come back next week. I'm sure Katie's gonna have something that's gonna crack it up. And with that being said, we're out of here. Peace.